This is the Strong is a Mindset podcast, episode number 136. If you want to build muscle but don't know where to start here. This is the Strong is a Mindset podcast, where you'll learn how to build both a strong body and a strong mind by eating, moving, and thinking. I'm your host, physician, personal trainer, certified health coach, and certified life coach, Carrie Holland. Hey, how are you? What's new? What's good? So, what's good here? We are going to talk about strength training today. So it's still fairly early in the year, and maybe you set a goal to make this the year that you get back into the habit of exercise. And if you're interested in hitting the weight room as part of that exercise plan, awesome. In fact, I would argue that every one of us should be hitting the weights for the mere fact that muscle is essential to your longevity, especially as you get older. But if you're new to strength training, or if it's been a while since you've picked up a dumbbell, or if you have very little time and want to get the biggest return on investment from your workout, keep listening. My goal is to make strength training as easy as possible and as accessible as possible for you. And I want you to feel prepared when you walk into the gym. So walking into a gym, admittedly, can be intimidating. Strength training can seem confusing. There are so many pieces of equipment and different systems and different programs. You may feel like a fish out of water around the weights. Walking into your gym and picking up heavy dumbbells, or loading up the barbell to squat it, or trying to figure out how the many machines at your local gym work. All of those things can be intimidating. Or even if you work out at home and have a bench and some dumbbells, you may want to put them to use, but you might be wondering how to maximize what you're getting out of your strength training sessions. So, whatever your situation is, my goal is to make lifting weights and building muscle less intimidating for you. Strength training really is accessible to anyone, and I do not want anyone, especially my 30, 40, 50-year-old and beyond women, to shy away from it. In fact, now is a great time to pick up strength training if you haven't already, because no one is too old to lift weights, okay? So, in my own experience, it took me years to feel comfortable in the weight room. I always shied away from the free weight area because I thought that was where all the gym bros hung out, and I didn't want to be an outcast. And then I finally realized I've got work to do, and no one's got time to worry about what the big burly people in the weight area are thinking. And so the only way I got comfortable in the gym was by letting it feel uncomfortable and continuing to show up until it didn't feel uncomfortable anymore. I didn't really get into strength training until medical school. I went to Loyola University in Chicago, and it just happened to have a really great gym with tons of cardio equipment and a nice indoor track and a fairly extensive weight room. So prior to med school, I did lift weights, but it was super haphazard and disorganized, and I had no idea what I was doing. And I never really bothered to lift my legs. I fell into the belief that since I was a runner for most of my young adult life, I didn't need to bother strength training my legs. So hear me now. If that is you, please learn from my mistake. If you are a runner, you will most definitely benefit from strength training your lower body. You are not exempt from lower body strength training because you run, okay? In fact, your running will improve by strength training. You will be a better, more powerful, more efficient runner when you add lower body strength training to your routine. But all the same, when I started out, it seemed like everyone around me was huge and busting out of their shirts, and it was mostly men taking up lots of space and dumbbells in the free weight area. And then there was me fumbling around with the equipment and questioning whether I should just stick to the machines. But I did not let that stop me. I wanted to learn, and more importantly, I wanted to get strong. So I worked with a trainer at my gym in med school, and I learned the basics. And as I kept with it through med school and then residency, becoming an attending physician, and beyond, I decided that I wanted to learn even more about it. And so I did. Between becoming a personal trainer and then competing in natural bodybuilding for a few years, I learned a lot. I tried a lot. I learned how to challenge myself in the weight room and create strength training programs on my own that met my goals. And now, strength training is just part of who I am. Now, for me, it's so much more than building muscle. It is my happy place. I love the repetitive, almost rhythmic quality of lifting weights. I love the burn, followed by the release when I go as hard as I can. And I just love how it feels to push myself in that way. There's nothing else like it. I like walking into the gym to see what I can do. I like trying to beat myself and see how long before I advance to the next higher weight. And beyond what I can do in the weight room, I like knowing that I can help my husband move a couch if he needs a hand. I like knowing that I don't need anyone's help hoisting my carry-on in the overhead compartment on an airplane. I like saying, no thanks, I got it, when someone offers to help me lift a big box because I absolutely know that I don't need their help. I like having muscle, period. And I would never, ever have gotten to the point that I am now if I hadn't kept showing up and letting those awkward first few months at the gym be awkward. So please remember that no one shows up to the weight room on day one knowing what she's doing. No one. We all have a first day of strength training because that's what gets you to day 1000. So if you're considering getting started, or if you already are lifting weights and want to know how to get the most out of your strength training, I think this episode will help you. So here's where we're going today. I'm going to give you a number of tips and ideas that you can take with you to the gym, whether that's a gym you drive to or a gym you've got in your garage or basement. I want you to be equipped with what you need to know to maximize what you get out of strength training. And I want to make this less intimidating and less complicated for you. And part of the inspiration for this episode is the experience I had at a recent conference. I was at the Women Professionals Wellness Conference in the Bahamas, where I had the privilege of speaking about the importance of our words and how they create our stories and shape our reality. And because of that, we should choose our words carefully. But it was really in between sessions at this conference where I had lots of conversations with women about strength training and building muscle. And the sentence I heard over and over and over again was, I want muscle, but I don't know what to do. And on top of that, while I was at the gym of the resort where the conference was being hosted, I just watched people. I observed. And I saw people doing all kinds of things that could get them hurt. And that is exactly what I'm trying to avoid. So in the name of making this easy and making this safe and really making it fun, let's talk about how to make strength training work for you. I want you to walk away from this episode feeling willing to dive into strength training and let it be awkward until it isn't. And I want you to walk away feeling confident that you absolutely can lift weights and build muscle. I do not care how old you are, you can build muscle. And last, I want you to see that building muscle is not some secret reserved only for the gym bros busting out of their tank tops. Okay? It is accessible and essential for everyone. And to that end, I put together an ebook that does exactly this. It makes strength training doable for everyone. So head over to carriehollandmd.com/buildstrength or check out the link in the show notes and download my guide to strength training. So within that guide, you'll find the essential exercises for building muscle. And I also wrote simple 1, 2, and 3-day strength training plans that you can follow using nothing more than dumbbells and a bench. You will also find strength training tips to help you train smarter and see real results. So this guide is meant to help you maximize what you get out of your strength training. So that's carriehollandmd.com/buildstrength, and you can go there and download the guide now. All right. So now let's go. Let's talk about how to get started with strength training. So first, you know what's coming here. If you want to start strength training, have a plan. You need a plan, okay? You will feel so much more confident walking into the weight area if you have a plan and know what it is you're supposed to do versus walking in and winging it. So let's get clear on the specifics of your plan. Your strength training plan should include how many days you're planning to lift and what exercises you're going to do. So let me address this from the get-go. This is one of the most common questions I get about lifting weights. And that question is actually a combination of two questions. And those questions are, how many days do I need to lift weights and how do I break it up? So this comes up all the time. And like most every single question in fitness and nutrition, there is no one right answer. And there probably never will be. There is no one right amount of days, and there is no one right way to break up your strength training sessions. And honestly, the answer to this question depends on multiple factors, like how much time you have and how much time are you willing to spend strength training and what your goals are. So with that being said, let me give you some guidance as to how to approach this. So if you are insanely busy and have very limited time in your schedule, and one day is all you can devote to strength training, then you do one day and you make it a full body routine. And I'll get into the specifics of what exercises in just a minute. But if you've got one day, make it a full body workout that hits all of your major muscle groups. So what if you've got 2 days? Well, then you've got options. You can do 2 full body workouts as long as they're spaced out by at least 1 day, or preferably 2 days, to give your muscles time to recover. Or you can break up those 2 days and have 1 day be an upper body workout that hits your chest, back, shoulders, biceps, and triceps. And the other day can be a lower body session that targets your glutes, hamstrings, quadriceps, and calves. So now to take it further, the women I work with who are well established with strength training are training either 3 or 4 days per week. And the ways we've broken up their workouts are all over the map. So if you've got 3 days, you can do an upper body, lower body, and then a full body workout. You can do a push day where you work all of your push muscles. Those are chest, anterior shoulders, triceps, and your quads. And you can do a pull day where you work all of the muscles that perform pulling motions like your back, biceps, rear shoulders, glutes, and hamstrings. And if you've got 4 days, well, you've got even more options. You can alternate upper, lower, lower. Or you can do what's called a body part split, which is exactly as it sounds. You break up your workout into different body parts that are worked in each session. So it may be that one day is all legs. Another day is chest and back. Another day is arms, where you do biceps, triceps, and shoulders. And another day is a full body day. And that's combining push exercises with pull exercises in one workout. It's all over the map. Okay, so I know I'm getting into the weeds here, so let me backtrack and make this simple. If you can strength train 1 day per week, make it a full body workout. If you can strength train 2 days per week, do 1 upper body day, 1 lower body day. If you can strength train 3 days in a week, do 1 upper body push workout, 1 upper body pull workout, and 1 lower body workout. If you can strength train for 4 days in a week, to make it easy, alternate upper body and lower body workouts. Okay? And again, to be super clear here, there is no one right way to do this, okay? I've done a little bit of everything. There have been times when I've strength trained 3 days a week while I was in the thick of triathlon training. So I did a leg day, a chest, shoulders, and triceps day, and a back, biceps, and rear deltoids day. There were also times when I trained 5 days a week to get ready for a bodybuilding show and had a quadriceps-focused leg day, a hamstrings-focused leg day, a dedicated shoulder day, a day of chest and triceps, and a day of back and biceps. So this really is all over the map. And the goal here is to work each major muscle group at least once per week. Okay? So to review, have a plan. Decide how many days per week you're committed to lifting weights. And once you know how many days per week you'll be strength training, decide how you want to break it up. Okay, next, once you've decided how many days and how you're breaking up your strength training sessions, the next thing to consider is what moves to do. So again, to keep this very simple, your strength training routine should incorporate basic foundational compound movements. So when I say compound movements, all that means is you're focusing on more than one muscle group at a time. So multiple muscle groups are being activated and engaged during a single exercise. Compound moves promote greater muscle recruitment, and you will get the most bang for your buck from these moves. So take the squat, for example. So the squat, which is one of my favorite moves, is a pretty simple compound exercise that calls in your quads, your hamstrings, your glutes, calves, hip flexors, and your core. So in one move, you're working multiple muscle groups, which is going to give you a bigger return on investment. And this is in contrast to a single joint or isolation exercise that generally works one muscle group at a time. So that would be something like your biceps curl. So the idea here is to prioritize compound movements that work multiple muscle groups so you get the most out of your time in the weight room. These moves are time efficient, meaning you work multiple muscle groups in less time than if you were doing nothing but single joint isolation exercises. And these moves are functional. So think again about the squat. That is like sitting down in a chair. Think about picking up a heavy box from the floor. That's a deadlift. Getting your suitcase in the overhead compartment of the plane. That's an overhead shoulder press. So these movements are not only economical, but they're also functional and will help keep you mobile and self-sufficient as you get older. So if you're going to prioritize compound movements, here you go. Here are what are known to be the big 5. So if you were to ask me what strength training moves I suggest any human be able to perform, here they are. It is these 5 foundational exercises. So they are squats, deadlifts, chest press or bench press, pull-ups or rows, and overhead shoulder presses. So if you do no other strength training exercises, these are the ones to do because you will get the most out of your workout when you're incorporating these moves into your regimen. So as an example, if you are totally new to strength training and you can commit to lifting weights 1 day per week, there is your workout right there, those 5 exercises. And you want to get really, really good at those. So if you have more than 1 day to strength train, excellent. Just make sure that those moves are a regular part of your routine. So that means on your leg day, you're doing both squats and deadlifts. If you have a dedicated upper body day, then make sure you've got your bench or chest press, your rows or pull-ups, and your overhead shoulder presses in there. Now, there are variations on all of these moves. You can change your stance or your grip, or you can do one side at a time, and you can create variety within those 5 moves. That is getting a little more advanced and beyond what I want to talk about. But the point is, start with big, compound, multi-joint movements in your workout first. Okay, so now that you know those big 5 exercises, I'll address another question that comes up all the time, and that is, where are my biceps curls? Where are my triceps extensions? So some of you may not feel like it's a workout unless you've got a biceps curl in there. Well, if you have time, by all means, add your single joint moves like biceps curls in there, okay? I'm not anti-biceps curl, but here's the thing. If you've got limited time, I would suggest doing dumbbell rows or pull-ups instead of biceps curls. And here's why. Again, I said it before, but the row is a compound movement. You're using multiple muscle groups to execute the rowing motion. So you'll not only work your lats or your back muscles, but you'll also work your rhomboids, your trapezius, and your biceps in addition to other pull muscles, all in one move. So if you've got 5 minutes and you've got a choice between a dumbbell row and a biceps curl, go for the row. You will work your biceps and a whole lot of other muscles too in that one rowing motion. Okay. And this is not to say don't do biceps curls. Okay. But I would argue they are not your priority when you're short on time. And so the key takeaway here, when you're planning your workouts, you want to start with the large, compound, multi-joint movements first. The big 5, those exercises should nearly always be in your workouts. And I would argue that they should be at the beginning of your workouts when you are most fresh. Then from there, you can add on accessory exercises that are often single joint isolation exercises, like your biceps curl or a lateral raise or a tricep extension or a calf raise. So we're not ignoring single joint moves, but we're not making those a priority. Okay. The goal is to maximize your time and effort. And this is how you do that. Compound multi-joint movements first, followed by single joint isolation exercises second. Okay. And now the next question that comes up, how many moves or how many exercises should I do in a session? And again, that is going to be very variable depending on how much time you've got and how much you want to work and what your goals are. So you can start with 4 to 5 moves per session and work your way up to 6 or more moves. There is no one right answer here. But now that I just said that, let me add on a big caveat. And that caveat is more is not always better. Okay? More does not mean better. You do not need 10, 12, or more different strength training exercises in one session in order to get in a good workout. Okay? Do not think that you have to do that many exercises in order to have a successful workout, because more is not better. Really, it's about quality over quantity. There are days when I'm short on time, and if it's my leg day, the only exercises I do are squats and deadlifts. And that's it. And while it is only 2 exercises, you can bet that I make them count. And what that means is I go heavy and I go hard and I get the most out of those 2 exercises. So I aim for quality sets that test my limits and leave me feeling like I did something when I'm done. So really, the number of exercises you do, honestly, it really does not matter so much to me. Instead, I want to make sure that the exercises you are doing are with solid, quality, heavy sets and reps. Okay, so while I just mentioned that, let's go there for a minute. Let's talk about what sets and reps are for just a second. So when I say 3 sets of 10 reps, for example, what does that mean? So a rep is a repetition. It's one complete movement of the exercise. So for a squat, when I lower myself into the squat position and then rise back to standing, that's 1 rep. A set is how many reps I do. So if I'm doing 3 times 10, that means I'm doing 10 reps for each of 3 sets. So I do 10 squats and I rest. There's my first set. Then I do 10 reps of squats again. That's my second set. Then I do 10 reps of squats again to complete my third set. 3 sets of 10 reps. Okay, so here's the other thing to consider. If you're following a workout plan and it says 3 times 10, like the example we've been talking about, your goal is to make all 30 of those reps quality, heavy lifting. And what that means is that you may actually need to do some lighter warm-up sets before you get to your heavier working sets. So warm-up sets. They are as they sound. They are sets when you're moving lighter weight and you may not complete the full number of reps as compared to your working sets. So you may do 2 sets of 5 or 6 reps before you get to your working sets of 3 times 10. And then your working sets, as they sound, that's when you're working. That's when you're doing the heavy lifting. And that is where the real, serious, legit work is happening. And here is why I point this out and make this distinction. So I don't know about you, but it's not super easy for me to load up a barbell and plates with super heavy weight and start squatting that heavy weight right out of the box. That just does not work for me, and I will end up hurt. So before I get into my working sets, I will do some lighter warm-up sets. So that may mean that I squat the barbell alone without any weight on it, just to get used to the motion of the squat, and I may just do one set of 5 reps. And then I'll do a second set with a 25-pound plate on either side and do 6 to 8 reps of that for another warm-up set. Then I'll put the 45-pound plate on either side and squat for another 5 or 6 reps. And then from there, I will load up and put on more weight, and then I will squat for my working sets of 3 times 10, or whatever sets and reps I've written for myself in that workout. And the point here is to make sure that you are properly warmed up. Do not try and go and do your heaviest lifting without warming up first. And that may mean a few things. So first, you may need to walk or jog slowly or jump rope for a couple of minutes to wake your muscles up and raise your heart rate before you get started with your lift. But beyond that, beyond doing cardio activity to warm yourself up, what I find to be even more useful is to do those lighter warm-up sets of the exercises before I get into the working sets that are meant to be heavy. Because if you're doing 3 sets of 10 squats, I want every single one of those 30 squats to count. And to be clear, this is especially true for the big 5 exercises that we just talked about. Do not try to hoist 40-pound dumbbells over your head for your working sets of shoulder presses without doing some lighter warm-ups first. That is a really, really great way to blow out your shoulder. Don't ask me how I know this, okay? Learn from my mistake. Do lighter warm-ups for your big multi-joint exercises before you get into your heavier main working sets, all right? And then as far as rest time, well, again, this is going to be variable. But general rule of thumb is about 60 seconds to 2 minutes between sets. Now, if you're trying to max out and go as heavy as you can, or if you're going to failure, which is beyond what I want to talk about today, then yes, you will need more rest time, like anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes, because going that heavy is going to be taxing on your neuromuscular system. But in general, at least 60 seconds between your sets is recommended. Okay. And if you find that you're resting less and still able to bust out all of your sets and reps, then that tells me that you can probably lift more weight. Okay. If you don't need a full minute to recover and you can do all your sets and reps with less rest, then I would challenge you to increase your weight. Challenge your muscles more and go heavier so that you look forward to those 60 seconds of rest. Okay. Okay, so now that I've brought it up, let's go there, because the next question that frequently comes up is, how do I know if I'm lifting heavy enough? Or really, to even take it a step back, how much should I be lifting? And the answer to this is lift heavy. Okay, so that to me means that you lift a weight that is challenging, but still allows for you to complete your sets and reps with good form. So what that means is that there's going to be some trial and error here. If you have never done a dumbbell biceps curl, we really have no idea how much weight you're going to start with. So pick something. And I would always, always, always err on the side of caution and choose lighter. You can always go up, but you don't want to start too heavy and hurt yourself. And if you have no idea, start with your own body weight. And this may be especially true for exercises like squats and lunges. You may need to start with your own body weight first and advance from there as you master the move and master your own body weight. Okay, so now let's go back to our example of 3 sets of 10 biceps curls. Okay, so if you do 3 sets of 10 biceps curls, the last 2 reps of each set should feel challenging. So number 9 and 10 should feel hard, but not impossible, and you're still able to complete those reps. That would be how to choose your weight. And then over time, as that weight gets easier and you finish your 10 reps thinking, I probably could have cranked out 1 or 2 more, that is when it's time to try the next higher weight. Okay. And this is where you have to pay attention to yourself and notice how you're feeling and what those reps are feeling like for you, and use that to guide the weights you choose. And the key here is that you maintain your form. Okay. I cannot stress this enough. I am a personal trainer and I am a stickler for form. So honestly, as both a physician and as a personal trainer, I cannot tell you how painful it is to see people trying to lift too heavy of a weight only to end up doing it with poor form, and it ends up being a setup for injury. So please, drop your weight, work on your form, and really dial in on making your reps good, solid, high-quality reps with a full range of motion and that are challenging enough that the last 1 to 2 reps are challenging but doable. That is it right there. You want to know how much weight to lift? That is your answer. Okay? And now let me make a big stink out of your range of motion for just 1 second. So I mentioned I was at this conference recently, and I was at the hotel gym, and I was just watching people around me lifting weights. And I cannot tell you how often I saw people doing only half of a move because they were pulling too much weight that was too heavy that resulted in them sacrificing their form and their range of motion. So if you cannot perform the full range of motion for a move, a few things. 1, you may need to work on your mobility. And 2, most commonly, you will likely need to back off your weight. When you are doing a lat pull down and cannot fully extend your elbows because you can't pull the weight stack back down, that's a sign. When you've got a loaded barbell and you can't get your thighs parallel to the floor in your squat, also a sign. When you do a chest press and are lowering the dumbbells halfway instead of getting your dumbbells nearly lined up with your pectoral muscles, also a sign. And I bring these up because it happens all the time. So the point here is please do not sacrifice form and range of motion for machismo, okay? Form over pounds every time. Range of motion over weight every time. You will get so much more out of your workouts when you put your muscles through the full range of motion of the movement instead of an edited version that only recruits some of your muscle fibers just so you can pull the heavier weight, okay? Save pride for later. Pride does not build muscle, okay? Getting hurt also does not build muscle. Choosing an appropriate weight and ensuring that you're taking your muscles through the full range of motion of the move, that will build muscle, okay? And I'm speaking to both men and women, okay? No one is immune to this here. It is surely fun to lift heavy stuff. There is serious pride in that. But please do it safely and do it smartly, okay? And to that end, if you are completely, totally new to this, or if it's been a while and you're not comfortable with the basic foundational moves, please consider having a professional help you. This is something that is done best in person, okay? If you're able, take a class or work with a trainer to have him or her take you through the basic foundational strength training moves and give you tips and form cues so you can be sure that you're doing these exercises properly. So when I was first getting started and I had no idea what I was doing, I worked with a trainer who taught me where to put my feet, how to turn out my hips, how to grip a dumbbell, what the starting and ending positions should be. And those early strength training sessions were priceless. Having someone watch you perform the strength training moves in real time and giving you live, immediate feedback, that is a game changer. A good trainer will take into account your own unique anatomy and biomechanics and coach you through those foundational moves in a way that is safe. Okay? So as an example, go back to the squat. If you have long legs, or really if your femur or your thigh bone is long relative to your torso, you may find that you have to lean forward more at your torso in order to maintain proper squat form. So it may be harder from an anatomical perspective for you to stay upright while you're doing a deep squat, simply by way of your anatomy. In contrast, someone who is short and stubby, like me, may be able to squat more upright and still keep the barbell path over the midfoot throughout the move, which is what we want. Okay? And I know I'm getting into the weeds here, but these are the subtleties that are really easy to miss when you're doing this on your own without any formal introduction to strength training. So I'm not saying you need to hire a trainer for the next 6 months, not at all. Instead, you can be very directive and say, hey, I'm interested in learning the key foundational moves. Can you instruct me on those and make sure I've got them down? And then once you do have those moves down, you can go on your own. And the whole idea here is that strength training is super fun when you're doing it properly, and it will help you feel good and build muscle when you do it with good form and do it safely. Okay? You will get so much more from your strength training workouts when you do them properly than if you try to flounder your way through it. Okay? And that is where a professional can really help you. Now, if in person is not possible, online is also fine. That is the next best option. But I just want you to feel confident that when you go to do your strength training sessions, you know you've got it. You feel good about what you're doing, you know what you're doing, and you know how to execute the moves safely and effectively. And the next thing to do to get started is to find a system of tracking your progress. You want to keep track of how much you're lifting, so you can start trying to best yourself over time. And there are so many systems and ways of doing this, so take your pick. Of course, there are apps where you can enter in your exercises and then go in and enter what the weight was that you lifted. You can put it in the notes section of your phone. You can go old school and use a notebook and pen. It really doesn't matter. But I do think it's important to keep track of your progress. So 1, it's a way to see how far you've come. And 2, it will save you time and scratching your head trying to remember which dumbbells you grabbed for your chest presses last week. So decide on a system and start logging your work and logging your progress. Okay. And let's also talk about rest and how to space out your workouts. So to answer this, go back to physiology and remember what strength training is and what it does. When you lift weights, you're putting your muscles through a movement pattern or a range of motion against a weighted resistance. And what that does is create micro tears in your muscle fibers. And while that sounds like a negative thing, it's not, because then what happens is your body goes back and repairs those muscle fibers so they come back stronger for your next workout. So muscle is actually not made during your workout. It's made after. And that is why rest is essential. Your body needs rest to repair and rebuild your muscles after your strength training sessions. And again, there's no hard and fast rule here, but the general rule of thumb in the sports medicine and personal training literature is to give yourself at least 24 hours, but ideally 48 hours between training the same body part. So what that means is, in general, you don't want to lift your legs 2 days in a row. You want to give yourself ideally 48 hours to recover to allow your body time to repair the muscles you worked during your strength session. So if you're walking into your workout feeling gassed from the previous workout, it's going to impact how you perform, and you're not going to get all that you can from your strength training session. So again, this is all about optimizing and maximizing what you get out of the work you put in. So please be sure to give your muscles enough time to repair and recover so that you walk into your next workout ready to go. Okay. And last, let's talk about soreness for a minute. So I have mentioned this before. I will share it again here, but soreness is not the end all be all sign of a good workout. Okay. There's no hard and fast rule that says you should be this sore this many days and for this long after your workout. But let's talk about what we do know related to soreness. So there is a technical term. It's delayed onset muscle soreness, or DOMS, which describes the soreness associated with strength training. So it is a totally normal byproduct of strength training, and it's the soreness that you notice about 12 to 24 hours after your lift. And it typically peaks by about 48 to 72 hours, and then it subsides. So if you have pain immediately after you lift, or if you have soreness that persists far beyond 72 hours, you probably overdid it, or worse yet, you may have injured yourself. So normal muscle soreness after a workout is typically not immediate and should not last beyond a few days. If you're outside that window, then I would be concerned about injury. Okay. But again, to be clear, delayed onset muscle soreness, it is a normal response to strength training. And then along with this, I want to address another common question that comes up all the time. And that is, how often should I be sore? And again, like most things in health and fitness, there is no hard and fast answer here. There is no prescribed amount of time that you should be sore from your strength training. So what I will offer to you is this. It's the same advice that one of my own strength coaches offered me. And that is, if you're always sore, you're probably overdoing it. And if you are never sore, you can probably go a little harder. And I know that is not super specific, but that's because there is no specific guidance related to your workout soreness. But here's something important to know. The first time, or the first few times you go through a workout, you're probably going to be sore. When you're putting your body and putting your muscles through movement patterns that it is not used to doing, or that it has not done in a while, you can bet on being sore. I will never forget, in medical school, a bunch of my friends and I started going to this new boot camp class that was taught in our med school gym. And one of the exercises was back and forth walking lunges. And I cannot tell you the last time I did walking lunges before that class. And then I did the boot camp and I thought my legs were going to fall off the next day. And the following week, it was the same thing. And probably the next week too. But then after a few weeks of doing those walking lunges, the soreness stopped. It was not so painful after the boot camp anymore. And the same idea is true for other exercises. The first time you do a chest press with dumbbells, after not doing chest presses for decades, I can promise you that you're going to feel it the next day. But then over time, as your body adapts and as your body repairs itself after those workouts, that soreness will become less. After a few weeks of chest presses, you'll be able to touch your pecs without it feeling like you put them through a meat grinder. Okay? The soreness will get less. And that is due to your body's amazing ability to adapt to the stimulus of strength training. Your body gets more efficient at repairing and recovering your muscles the more you work out. And this is a positive, normal, physiologic phenomenon. And if you really boil it down, that decrease in soreness means that you are getting stronger. And that is the goal right there. All right, so there it is. We just reviewed in about 30-ish minutes, maybe more, how to get started with strength training. And I hope after listening to this, that strength training sounds less intimidating and more doable to you. It really does not have to be complicated. You do not need a load of fancy moves or complicated set and rep schemes or loads of equipment to get started. I've said it before, I will say it again. If you've got a body and you can count, then you can strength train, okay? So to review, this is how you get started. Choose how many days you want to strength train and then decide how you want to break up your workouts. Choose your exercises, prioritizing big, compound, multi-joint movements first and foremost. Remember those big 5. And then add in accessory single joint exercises like bicep curls and tricep extensions if you have time in order to round out your workout. You can start simple with 1 or 2 sets of 8 to 10 reps per exercise and then aim to increase from there up to 3 or 4 working sets. Okay. Be sure that you are properly warmed up before you start lifting. And that may mean 5 minutes of cardio to raise your heart rate, plus lighter warm-up sets before you start training heavy with your working sets. Give yourself at least 1 minute between sets, but if you're going heavier, you may need more time, all the way up to 5 minutes if you're trying to set a new personal best. And keep track of your progress. If you're unsure of how to perform foundational moves like squats or deadlifts, consider having a professional teach you the exercises to ensure you're doing them properly. And be sure to give yourself adequate rest between your strength training sessions, like at least 24, but more like 48 hours before you lift the same muscle group. And last, soreness is normal, but it is not required after your workout. It is normal to feel sore, but you should not always be sore. And the more you lift weights, the more your body will adapt to the training stress, the less sore you'll be, and the stronger you'll get. Okay? So I will leave you with this. Go for it. I know I am biased, but I really love lifting weights, and I want everyone to get the benefit of it in the way that I do. Strength training has most definitely changed my body, but beyond that, it has changed my mindset too. It feels good to walk into a workout knowing that I'm going to work hard and then I'm going to come out on the other side feeling proud. And beyond that, it feels good to feel strong. Period. End. And I hope that you will see this for yourself too. All right? And if you want help with this, let's go. If you're ready to establish the habit of exercise, including strength training, I will help you do it. And we'll make it fun. Check out my website, send me a message at www.carriehollandmd.com/contact, and let's talk about how exercise and strength training will change your body and change your mind. All right? Thank you again for hanging out with me, and I'll catch you again next week. Hey, if you want to build muscle but don't know where to start, I've got you covered. Head over to carriehollandmd.com/buildstrength and download my free guide to help you maximize your strength training. Inside, you'll find the essential exercises for building muscle, plus simple 1, 2, and 3-day workout plans that you can follow with just dumbbells and a bench. You'll also find strength training tips to help you train smarter and see real results. My goal is to help you get strong, and this strength training guide will help you do it. Go to carriehollandmd.com/buildstrength and check it out. Thank you for listening to the Strong is a Mindset podcast. If you want to learn more about how to build both a strong mind and a strong body by eating, moving, and most importantly, thinking, check out carriehollandmd.com.